Act 2, Scene 2 in 5 minutes. The absolutely central scenes of this part of the play here, in which Lady Macbeth and Macbeth deal with the consequences of the murder of Duncan. Of course, we don't see the murder of Duncan, quite possibly because watching a king being murdered on stage isn't necessarily the best thing for society at the time. But whatever the reason, it makes us focus on the aftermath of it. It starts with Lady Macbeth on her own, and she is excited. Yeah, she has fire in her. She is bold. She's quite happy about what's happening, very excited about it. And the only difficulty she ever has is down here when she's worried, when she hears Macbeth's voice, that they've woken up and discovered what they're going to do. And she points out that the fear she has is that they are caught in the attempt and not the deed. So it doesn't really seem to be suggesting it's the fact they're caught, it's the idea that they'd be caught in attempting and not caught because of what they've done. She rather would have got through and committed the murder. Now, just like the thing with the baby a little bit before, there's a very strange and one-off point here. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it, she says, commenting on how she was just with the grooms themselves, drugging them, and he was laying there in his room on his own. So the point she's making there seems to be that she was ready to do it herself, very much against her gender and her gender expectations. But there's again a moment of tenderness, a suggestion of a relationship with a father. Okay, then in comes Macbeth. We have this very tense back and forth between them. Questions, answering questions with questions, before Macbeth comes out with his answer that this is a sorry sight, beginning to show his trauma, his reaction to what's happened. He's horrified by what's gone on. It's a sorry sight, he says, looking at his hands. Notice he's not talking about the death of Duncan. He's looking at the blood on his hands. He carries on along this line where he, first of all, tells a story of passing by what was Malcolm and Donalbain in their room, hearing them wake up, say their prayers, one saying Amen. He wants to say Amen and he can't. Okay? Amen stuck in his throat. And then after this, he says that he heard a voice cry, "Sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. You are murdering your sleep and you will not sleep again." And then goes into a kind of list of all the things that are great about sleep. What we're seeing is Macbeth's regret, which continues throughout this scene. But what's important is that we see that Lady Macbeth is in contrast to this the entire time. This is a sorry sight, a foolish thought to say, a sorry sight. What we have is he's traumatised, she is being far more practical. That's a silly thing to say, you've done it. When he says, "I couldn't say Amen," why couldn't I do it? Don't think about it so deeply. Again, incredibly practical. It's not important. When he goes on about the voice saying, "Sleep no more" to all the house, her response is, who cried that? Who said it? Who was it who said that then? Which of course he can't answer. Okay, you heard this voice. Who was that then? Notice though, she's not just knocking him down. She is still calling him worthy Thane. She is still being very kind of respectful to him here. You unbend your noble strength to think so brain sickly of things. But she is at the same time ordering him about. She is at the same time in control. Go and wash this filthy witness from your hand. But Macbeth will not. His trauma is so deep that he refuses to go. "I'll go no more," he says. "I am afraid to think what I've done. Look on it again, I dare not. I'm scared to think what I've done, so I can't bear to look on it." Now, this is the point at which she loses her temper with him, okay, infirm of purpose. But much more interestingly, reveals her view on it. He's scared to do all this, but for her, the sleeping and the dead are just like pictures. Only children fear a painting of a devil. That's kind of like her philosophy here. When people are dead, when people are unconscious, they're just like pictures. There's nothing more to it. Now, at this point, the knocking is heard at the door, and this knocking will continue, happens 4 times, and it will go on into the next scene. This is, of course, the entry of Macduff to wake up the king, but at this point Macbeth sees it as something a little bit more, a noise coming almost from the supernatural. Lady Macbeth leaves to go back to the scene and lay the daggers back down, and he is left with one of the key lines of the scene, if not of the play. He asks the question, will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? Could all the gods' oceans wash my blood clean? No, actually, if I did this, my hand would turn the seas incarnadine, would make the seas go red. All the oceans of the world couldn't wash the blood from my hand. Clearly, obviously, the guilt that he's talking about. Actually, I would infect the entire world. That's how big my guilt is. That's how bad what I've done is. Lady Macbeth returns and responds to the line, I've got the hands the same colour as yours, but my heart is not as white. I'd be ashamed if it was as white. And takes them to get their hands washed, and what we see is a little water clears us of this deed, where we can see the contrast between the two of them. There's a lot more in that scene. It finishes with him saying, I wish you could wake Duncan with your knocking, but it's an absolute key scene to see their different reactions.